Hey guys, welcome back to the Project Car series. Lastly, I told you a story about how I got my project car, and now I'm going to tell you my story of trying to get this repaired. So, the car was sitting there in my neighborhood for a week because, as you know, there was a shifter linkage issue. So I couldn't actually drive the car would actually turn on. I was trying to idle the car throughout the week, and I didn't know they had to push in the clutch in order to turn on the car. It's probably me trying to learn manual transmission. Being that I just sat there for a while and I wanted to actually learn how to drive it, my friend Eli was going to teach me how to drive it, but unfortunately he's on vacation. So I needed to get this car running again so I could learn how to drive manual. I decided to come up with 3 different phases that I could make this project a thing. Phase 1 is getting the car just running, like just getting it so it can drive and it can just drive. Just trying to get it to run. Phase 2 is making it look good. That includes replacing the top, as you can tell, it kind of looks a little bad, and removing some of the rust on the sides. And then phase 3 is making it run better. Now, the car currently doesn't have AC, so that would be one I would put new AC in, or making it a short shifter so that it shifts better. Stuff like that is what my projects would be. But first, we're going to start off with phase 1. Since this car was sitting in the lot for like a week, I'm like, okay, I don't have the tools necessary to actually get underneath the car and fix it. I don't have the supplies or anything for that. So I went ahead and called a local tow truck, and this is my first time actually ever towing a vehicle. Hopefully not the last time I'll ever tow a vehicle, because you don't want to have to hire a tow truck. So the guy came out, super chill dude, super friendly. He came out and he said, "Hey, so where's the car?" So I said, "Well, look to your right. There's a blue tarp that's over top of it." The reason why there's a tarp there is because there was a big rainstorm and I was like 30 minutes away from where I live now, and I I had to drive up here at it was dark out. It was a little bit rainy, and there's a big downpour, and there's a hole in the side of the top. So I was like, shoot, I got to cover this. So I literally picked up some tarps, picked up some bungee cords, and I literally it was pouring rain, downpouring, and covered it with a tarp. And that's how it was sitting. It's completely dry. This cat is saying hi to me. Well, that was weird. So yeah, that's why I was covered in tarps. So he said, okay, I'm gonna go pull forward. I was like, okay, I'll go take off the tarp because I don't want this thing to be the tarp blowing away, and this is one of the biggest tarps we have. So I removed the tarp, and the guy just instructed me on how he did it. I turned on the car, pulled it out, and yeah, so we managed to pull it out. We got the car all set up, and then I started talking to him about hey, what's your towing experience be like and stuff like that? Have you worked on cars before? Car stuff. And he said yesterday, the day before we were towing, he towed a semi-truck. And then he towed an Amazon trailer, an Amazon truck on here, those electric ones. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy knows what he's talking about. He had a car that he worked on, and he said this was the smallest car he's ever towed, because this car, the Cabriolet, fits in between the Prius's wheel wells. That tiny. So we towed the car towed away. I asked if I could see where it's going to, and he said that's not really unnecessary, I'm just going to drop it off. I'm like, okay. So I gave him $100, which is how much it was for towing. So I towed away, and I'm like, okay, I want to actually see where this is going. So I spent the time to look up where the towing company was and found the location. It was at a house for some reason, which I don't know why. Their location on Google was at a house. Then I went and called the towing company. I was like, hey, where do you guys tow your vehicles? He said, we tow this place in Trotwood, Ohio. Now, if you don't know anything about Trotwood, it's northwest of Dayton, and I live in the Dayton area. So, it's like about 30 minutes of a drive, which was not fun. So I wanted to go see the car, make sure I made it safely, as anyone does. I text my friend from college who lives like northwest of Dayton also. And he he said Trotwood, Ohio is a dump. And I was like, oh gosh, what have I done? I basically towed this thing to a place that's kind of crappy. But it actually isn't that bad. Trotwood, Ohio is actually like, I don't think it's really that bad. It has some parts that, like that really rough around the edges, shopping center malls, but a lot of it's like modern. There's like a modern Subway next to a trashy shopping mall. Completely safe. I saw the car. It was right there, just right where it should be. I didn't. I realized one day during that week that I was just sitting here trying to run it. One of the doors, the driver's side door, does not lock. And I don't think the trunk locks either, which is going to be an issue I need to fix. But anyways, I managed to move the car. The car made it to the place. It sat there for 2 days because I was going to call them. We moved it on a Friday. I think we moved on a Friday. Yeah, we moved on a Friday. Sat there all day on Sunday. No, I moved it there on a Saturday. I'm trying to get my times right. I moved there on a Saturday, and on a Sunday, I thought I could call them and see if they were open. They were not open, so it sat there for another 24 hours, and I was freaking out. I was a little scared, but I managed to calm myself down and be like, yep. I called my mother, and she was like, yeah, it'll be fine. It shouldn't be too bad. Anyways, so we got, it was on Monday. The car came to the shop. I called them up. I was doing some like, hey, did you guys get it? Stuff like that. And then they assessed the vehicle. They did an inspection, and I got my quote. I talked to the owner, or talked to the mechanic. I talked to the mechanic. The mechanic said there's a muffler issue and there's this axle rod issue. I was like, ouch. That probably explains the loud noises, how loud the car is, and why it shakes so much. Because it does shake every time you turn on the car. Like the mirror shakes. But anyways, so I was like, okay. And they said, yeah, you're gonna need to replace all the spark plugs. You're gonna need to replace all this and this and this. And the total came out to be $949 just to get it running. I was like, shoot, what is going on? Like, why is this like that? I'm not paying $949 to get this thing running. This is a 40-year-old vehicle. So, I talked to the person who was like the front desk, I think, and she said, we could try to lower the price. And so she's like, okay, well, what would be the most you pay? I'd be like, $300? And that's obviously a stretch. He's like, how about $600? I'm like, okay. So they lowered it to $600, and then I'm like, I ain't paying $600 still though. Like, there's no way I'm paying $600. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna pay for the inspection. It works better. I asked them if they could do an inspection of the whole vehicle and just write a giant diagnosis of like every little thing that goes wrong so that I can check it off and make sure I do everything. And they didn't even do that. So I was like, crap, what the heck? This is terrible. So I went ahead and I told them I'm going to pay for the inspection. I paid for the inspection yesterday, which today I'm recording on Saturday, so I paid for it on Tuesday. And I told them I'm going to be picking it up on Friday. And they said, if you make sure you pick it up then, because don't pick it up. If you pick it up on Monday, we're going to have to actually extra charge you. I'm like, darn it. I got to try to pick it up on Friday, which I have someone that's helping me pick it up. They have a trailer. Hopefully it fits. That'll be a funny video. But anyways, I basically pay for the car, just pay for the inspection, and it was only $100 for the inspection, which is nice. So, and I was like, okay. But, all those repairs would probably still need to be done. So what did I do? Well, I'll tell you. I went to AutoZone. I showed the receipt, the quote, to AutoZone and I said, hey, do you guys have all this stuff available? And they said, yes, I hook you up. So they got me the oil from the AutoZone, which is 20W-50 SDP, which will be nice. And yeah, it's gonna be, I've never done an oil change before, so you guys are gonna be watching me as an amateur try to do an oil change. That'll be a funny video. And then we got more parts. We got ignition wires from Duralast. One of the things that need to be replaced. The wires are from like 40 years old, so ignition wires. Then we got an STP oil filter, which is going to be needed for the oil change. I guarantee the filter is probably garbage. And then we got some vehicle electronics, which is going to be useful for the electrics. There is a battery light that showed up, and I'm assuming it's all this wiring ignition because the battery said the battery is fine. So I'm like, okay, that's nice. It saved me like $300. And then we got spark plugs, which are not the copper ones. They're iridium, which is the nice ones. So we got some nice, good spark plugs. And since there's that muffler and that axle issue, I talked to the guy about that. So I got the axle part. It is in my car right now. And I haven't opened it, so we'll see how that goes. We said that putting those axles could be a little bit of a challenge to put in, so I might need some help with that. Like I said, I don't have the tools right now to put that in right now. I just need to get it running, so the shake might have to do with a little bit. And here's the weird part. I put this in there just for the shifter linkage thing, and I told them I had the part, I just needed to put them in. And they were paying like $120 an hour, it's like 3 hours of work, and that's why it was $900. But here's the weird thing, the absolute weirdest thing. They said that it's fine. Like the plastic part's fine. And the shifter linkage is not needed. Like it didn't fit or something. I was like, what? This is what the owner sent me. This is what the link sent me. And he's saying that the shifter linkage doesn't fit? Did I just waste $2 on that thing? Anyways, I'm going to figure out that issue. I looked at the mufflers online. The guy at AutoZone, shout out to David, absolute real G. It's the cringiest thing I could ever say, but he actually hooked me up pretty well on everything. So thank you, David. He worked on he straight piped a Ranger, which is wild, and he also added a muffler to a Corvette. I think it was like I think it said 94, 95 Corvette, I think. So that's pretty cool. But I asked him, like, he suggested a muffler company, Magnaflow, not sponsored, also not sponsored by AutoZone. Suggested that muffler so that I could put it in there, and I was like confused on what mufflers are because I've never done a muffler installation. They're pretty easy to do, but I've never done it before. He says, here's what I went back inside and told him, hey, I'm confused on the website, and he showed me what the mufflers are and what size you need. So I already know what size I need. And he says the bigger it is, the more muffled it kind of becomes, which makes sense. You can straight pipe them or you can muffle them. I'm doing a big muffler because I don't want this thing to be loud. I don't want it to be obnoxious like the Civic owners who modify their cars. But yeah, so that's the story. Right now, I don't have the car yet. I have all the parts. I just gotta install them, which is gonna be a fun little struggle. So please consider subscribing and continue watching the series because this will be a fun little project.